Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Usually I make bouquets and things like that, but I'm going to try to make a centerpiece. Now, I will be the first to admit I am not very good at making centerpieces, but we're going to do the best we can and see what we can come out with. Today in the garden, I want to make sure to use things that are easy to grow from seed, so things that, other people can grow too. Because I think that's really the coolest part is that you can grow your own stuff and make some really gorgeous flower arrangements for a very small price tag, as opposed to something that you'd buy at the florist. It would cost you 50 or 60 bucks, because I ain't got money for that, that's for sure, especially if it ain't a special occasion and I'm not just sitting it on my table or whatever. But anyhow, let's dive right on into this. The first thing that I need to do, of course, is I need to find a vessel or a bowl or something like that. And looking around, I ain't got very many vases, or at least low vases. For a centerpiece, I kind of want it to be low, because I imagine a lot of people are going to be sitting at a table. And of course, if somebody's sitting at a table eating or talking or whatever, you want to be able to see the people that are sitting at the table across from you. You don't want a big old huge tall flower arrangement in your face. So I just picked up, this is just a mixing bowl. This was $1. I think I got it from Target. It was like, I don't know, 4 of them for like $5 or something. A little bit over $1, I guess. For the most part, whenever I make a vase or a basin or something like that, you have a lot of options. Of course, you can use floral foam if you have that on hand, or if you used it before, you're comfortable with it. So I am just going to use tape to make a grid here. And of course, it wouldn't be a video by me if I hadn't planned ahead and I ran out of tape. So you can see what I was doing though. I was just taking this tape and I was stretching it across the bowl in both directions to make a grid. Ideally, I want this to have little slots that I can place stems of flowers. The tape is really just going to help hold the stems in place, especially when you have a big container like this. It can be a little bit tricky for everything to stand up. This just keeps things from falling over and leaning over. And you'll see a little bit later on the outside where I ran out of tape, you can see how the basil filler there kind of falls over. That's really just my fault. So the first thing I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to pick all my materials. For whatever reason, it's always hard for me to anticipate how much of things that I need when I make these, especially when I'm using these big containers like this. I went ahead and I just picked a ton of that sweet basil that I have in the garden. I have hundreds of basil plants, and I've just been cutting on them and cutting on them and cutting on them, and they just keep coming back even more, which I'm not complaining. That's awesome. It's an awesome attribute to have. Anyhow, after that, I made the choice to pick some sunflowers, and I kind of started with basil and sunflower is the base of this arrangement, and you'll see later on as I went on, I decided to add more and more. So I started my basil to kind of add into my grid, and it took a lot of basil for this. So, I mean, if you are thinking about doing this, think it's going to take a lot of flowers. So ideally, if you have a lot of access to, filler type foliage, it doesn't have to be filler, I don't really even like that word, but foliage, that really helps if you're going to make a lot of these. Anyhow, once I got all of my basil into my bowl here, I kind of realized it still looked kind of bare, so I went ahead and I grabbed some kale out of the vegetable garden also, and I added some kale leaves into this to just kind of fluff up and add a nice base before I started to work with the arrangement. After I have this nice base kind of established, I decided to add my focus flowers, which would be the sunflowers. In this case, I have two different types of sunflowers. I have the Aracara sunflower, and I have this tall orange sun, which is the double sunflower. What I like about that one is it has a branching habit, so you really do get a lot of blooms compared to the teddy bear double sunflower. So adding the sunflowers can be a little bit tricky. These are side shoots, so the heads tend to be a little bit more droopy and heavy, so it was really important that I cut the stems to the right length and I let them kind of just nestle in there. If I was using a more adapted like Florist sunflower, say something out of the Pro Cut series, it's much more likely that that would have been able to stand up and the head would have faced forward like I liked. That is one advantage to using those sunflowers that are specifically bred for cut flowers instead of the heirlooms like I have here, as they're a lot sturdier. But we'll save that for another video. I think I could talk a lot about the advantages and disadvantages of sunflowers when it comes to that. Anyhow, once I finally got the sunflowers in there, I was like, this is looking kind of bare still. I'm not happy with how this is looking. So I decided to head back into the garden and actually grab some of my golden giant amaranth, which is great to have on hand. It is such a neutral color. It's kind of warm, and it really does blend in with a lot of different combinations that you might have in terms of flowers. It can definitely add texture and height to things. It is one of my favorite things to have for flower arrangements. So of course I went back and I added some amaranth to this flower arrangement, and I think that really helped. It just gave it a little bit more body and it started to look a little bit fuller. After that, I realized I didn't have any kind of height. I mean, of course I want to keep a centerpiece low, but the way I was arranging this, it didn't really have any kind of height. So what I did is I went back and I looked for things that would give a little bit of height, and I decided to add some tomato vines. Now I know everybody who grows tomatoes for like to eat are like, no, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I have tons of tomatoes, don't worry. Just adding these tomato fruits and tomato vines is just a real nice way to give a pop of color and pop and texture and height, and I think it's really cool the way it looks. So I added just a few tomato vines, and last but not least, I decided to add a couple branches of the tithonia that I have in the garden. Now, I'll be the first one to admit I am so bummed out that how things start to wilt. It is so important, you guys, that when you're picking the flowers, you let them condition first, and then you take them to a cool place out of sunlight to start arranging and styling them. If I had the space or the resources, trust me, I would make a full-on video for you guys, like doing the proper steps and everything, but it's not feasible right now, which is so frustrating to me, but we'll save that for another time too. Anyway, the flower arrangement that I started to make here almost started to wilt immediately. It's too hot. It's so frustrating. So my tithonia pretty much kind of just bleh, wilted. But I know for a fact you can use tithonia as cut flowers as long as they condition. It's not a big deal. Overall, even though I was kind of frustrated by this arrangement, I always get frustrated by centerpieces. It's one of those things that takes time and practice. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cute. And definitely really like colorful and vibrant. Definitely something maybe you'd see in the summer, fall, those hot colors. I'm just going to have to keep on working on my floral skills, I guess, and see what we do in the future. Hopefully it'll get better and better. I hope that you guys seriously enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to share it and hit like and subscribe and tell your friends and, that kind of thing. Just trying to build up the channel here so we can keep making some real flowery content, I guess. I hope y'all are having a real great day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.